At a bonfire, there was a woman that stood aside near the miners and the traveling circus acts. She was the ringleader. Her face was flawless, that of a Catholic statue. Her features looked deliberately beautiful, almost as if hand-selected. Her eyes were as blue as the summer sky. Her cheekbones were as high as the clouds. Her skin was fair, slightly rosy, and smooth, just with a single perfect mole on the outer cheekbone. Her hair was brown. Each curl lay over her face and shoulders like roses and ribbons, but with ribbon and lace accents. She wore gold around her neck, earrings. The handle of the cane she held was carved to resemble the common loon. The sharp, straight beak held between her fingers. Her main accent was subtle. Men hung on to every word she said. Oh God, I was afraid of her. Something wasn't right, but I never said anything. In the woods, she danced around a fire in just a linen smock. It barely held on to her shoulders. She chants in tongues I do not know, her face contorted in a terrible grin. She didn't look like the beauty she portrayed herself to be. She looked like a witch, but witch implies human. I am unsure if that is true. Her bare feet coated in mud as she danced, not caring whether the flames burned or the twig thorns struck her feet. She sang to herself till she stopped suddenly. Her head turned my direction, and I swear her neck creaked like squeaking wood. Her smile did not cease, but instead her teeth separated from each other. She let out a quiet, dry groan, like she had no energy to pretend. Maybe this is why she was doing this ritual, but before I could make any conclusion, she screamed and I ran away. The next day I woke up, and as I got done cooking breakfast, I heard a knock. I opened the door hesitantly. Saw the ringleader at my door. I turned white, almost scared that she looked normal again. Hello there. Dallas, was it? I was wondering if we could have a chat over breakfast. I swallowed down my terror. Sure. I don't mind, I say hesitantly as I let her in and led her to a chair and served her biscuits, eggs, bacon, and gravy. As I sat down, I noticed how her hand gripped the loon-shaped handle of her cane. They gripped harshly, but they did not have the normal discoloration it should at that kind of pressure. So I heard your name was Madison? It's a family name. Her tone was nice, but she almost snapped at me. She was mad. Very, very mad. So, what do you want to talk to me about? I asked as I sipped my coffee. It was abnormally bitter, even though there was milk and sugar in it. Maybe it was a bad batch. You were peeking where you best not be peeking, she said in a grave tone. Chill ran down my spine and spread through my skin. What? You know what I mean, boy. I remained silent. I was petrified, and it felt like my teeth were fused together like tin plates. She stood up and leaned into my ear. Keep your mouth shut. It'll be fine when I get my circus moving. You need not worry yourself with my personal matters. She stood up slowly, a warm smile on her face, as she took a biscuit and walked out. finally let my breath leave my lungs when she was gone. That talk was only a few moments, but it felt like hours. I worked at a research facility as an apprentice to Dr. Franklin Steinsberg in my early 20s. I was stationed on a Long Island chain called Euphrasia, way out in the Pacific Ocean. The chain had a healthy population of birds, specifically dinosaurs. I've had the pleasure of working with very small ones, about the size of crows. Despite common depictions in movies and TV, they actually have feathers. The collection I monitored were cinnamon brown with cream white underbellies and large yellow eyes. Their snouts were bald and smooth due to their predatory lifestyle. They ate worms and mice. Sometimes I would sneak them cookies. However, I should stop talking about my prehistoric pets. They bit my fingers anyway. There are larger beasts to tackle here. It was nighttime when I was assigned to work in a group with a guy called Tobias Watanabe. He was a pretty great guy, looked like a leading man. The group was meant to find a researcher that disappeared a day ago. I am keeping him unnamed due to legal obligations. See, the island chain is kind of like Appalachia. Not in terms of looks, but in properties. It gives off a strange frequency that can cause anxious episodes and even delusions. So this place is very, very dangerous as a result. Watanabe suggested that this was why the researcher disappeared. So we should be careful. I suited up and loaded my gun and flares like the rest of the crew. We spent 2 hours searching before the sky darkened. We put on our night vision. One member, who I will call Miles, had decided to pair up with me. We spread out, calling out for the researcher. The night got darker and Miles was getting impatient. He would jump at any subtle sound. Eventually, we heard the researcher's voice in the bush. "Hello? Is someone there?" "Yes, is this?" Miles asked. The bush rustled. It sounded like he was backing away. "Get away!" Miles's eyes widened, and he backed away. He saw something. "We have to get out of here now!" He ran off. I would follow and hear random disjointed phrases in the distance. "Get away! Hello! Hello! Hello!" Followed by running and hisses of what I assume is a raptor. As it gets close, nearly biting me in the back of my neck, I whacked it in the face with the end of my gun. I turned to shoot it, but it was gone. The hell? Miles muttered to me before grabbing me by the collar and leading me away from the spot. We hear the sounds of a few raptors jittering in the distance, so we quickly get to jogging, keeping quiet as to not make unnecessary noise. We reach the watchtower and climb up. We do this because the raptors on the island track their targets for up to 3 nights. We would have to stay up there for at least until daylight. "Miles, we have to get out there soon. The researcher is still out there." "No. Those things got to him if one of them is mimicking his voice. Unless they are actually killing other members, we don't go out there until morning. And even then, we can't go out for another 2 nights after." Miles was enraged at even the suggestion. I sat down and got my radio. "Then I'll call Watanabe and tell him we need backup." The chittering and the hissing of the raptors got louder as they got closer. Miles shook his head. We can just shoot them if they get too close. I peer out the window and gaze at the ground, taking in the appearance of the raptors. There are 3 of them. They look about 6 to 7 feet tall. I feel in real time an agonizing chill travel up my spine and spread through my skin. Then my blood began to gel. I fall back when one of them turns its head my way. "Shit, looked at me," I whisper. I sit on the ground to not be seen. Miles gets on the ground with me, holding his gun close to his chest. He gets up on his knees and peeks through the window. Meanwhile, I get my gun ready and peek through the hatch to see if there were any under us. And lo and behold, I spot one that was looking directly at me. It looked like the one I hit earlier. It must have gotten here first. It stared at me with its large gray eyes. It was so still that it looked more like a good taxidermy than a living being. He started trying to climb the ladder. I shot at him, but he kept climbing. It only made him mad. I shot again and missed. Took another shot. Luckily, it was a headshot. It falls back, lying still. I shut the hatch and look over at Miles. He had shot a raptor, but the others had run off. "Hey, should we take them to the lab?" I asked him. "No, it's not worth it," Miles said. "They'll ambush us if we try." "Are you sure? Steinsberg will get mad if we don't—" "Fuck Steinsberg, he's a neurotic loon." Miles stands up and takes off his helmet and gestures at me. "I get that you care a lot about this research, and sure, some of these animals are pretty cool, but I don't trust that guy." As he finishes his sentence, it gets punctuated by the sound of a hiss from under the hatch. I stand up and back away with Miles. The head of the raptor I shot breaks through the hatch and attempts to crawl in. Miles had shot it several times and it finally slumped forward. He checked the pulse. It was dead. Jesus Christ. I must have barely missed the vitals, I say before Miles interjects with, "So, like emus. They are both birds." I slid the feathered creature out the hatch and watched it fall to the ground with a hard thump, the sound of cracking bone as it falls on its neck. Miles put his helmet back on, and I looked at him. Let's reload. I get interrupted by my radio. It was Watanabe.
"Hey, we need you to meet up with us by the pond out west. Over."
"We'll be right over." Miles and I reloaded the shots we lost and headed out. Upon opening the hatch, we see that the body of the raptor had been dragged off, a trail of blood heading west. We held our breaths, and Miles climbs down the ladder first. I go second and lead him that direction. Eventually, we see 5 other members, with one missing. I spot Tobias. He had blood splattered on his uniform with claw marks deep in the bulletproof vest. His eyes glazed over and his hands clutching the gun tightly. "Watanabe!" Miles called out. Tobias looked over. 2 raptors got Stan. He sat on a boulder and continued. "One of them jumped me. I kicked it off, and it decided to attack the other guy I was paired with. I shot it. We should stay together in a group. It's safer," Watanabe said. He seems to have just noticed the blood on his face as the shock wears off, since, well, he started wiping his face. Miles checks the time on his watch before telling them. A raptor has been impersonating the missing researcher. What do you want to bet he's dead, too? Tobias doesn't react. He just stared at the ground for a good 15 seconds. The silence is cut through by screams. We hold our breaths. We look around before we hear rustling and a snapping sound. I turned to see that one of the group members was taken, with only a gun left behind. The other soldier spots a tail from the foliage and shoots that direction, which triggered an ambush. 3 soldiers shot, but then get attacked from behind by more raptors. Miles is smart enough to run, and I'm smart enough to follow him. I knew he should have stayed at the watchtower. He growls under his breath as he ran. I looked over my shoulder, and I see raptors hissing and chirping, their white feathers coated with blood splatter. There looked to be about 9 of them, and as the way that they carried themselves, they looked almost happy. I picked up the pace. Wait! We left Watanabe! They didn't stay with him. He's either dead or just fine. Now let's go. We were cut off by a sudden drop-off. We fell about 15 feet into the water. I swam up to get out, but then a gloved hand covered my mouth and I was dragged down. I was held underwater for 20 seconds before I was brought to the surface. Of course it was Miles. I crawl away from the water and fall on my back. Miles stood up and his gaze leered upward, and he paused. He pointed up. I sat up and looked over, and what I saw is that in the branches was the body of the missing researcher. Strips of flesh were taken from his extremities, his stomach slashed open. They must have been saving the rest of his smallish body for later by putting him up on a sturdy branch. I looked over at Miles and stood up. Let's look for Watanabe. Growing up, I used to watch a show about haunted houses. It was called Haunted with Mike Marley. When I was 22, I would see a post online saying that the cameraman had quit. I was studying film, so I decided to apply for the job, to add to my resume since I liked the show anyway. Surprisingly, they accepted my application. Meeting Mike was overwhelming. My blood was pumping a mile a minute. I could pass out at any moment. Mike had on his signature look. Medium-length dreadlocks and a purple and silver bowling shirt. He shook my hand and said, "Thank you for applying. We can't postpone this episode any longer. You have no idea how much of a lifesaver you are." He was a pretty friendly guy. He then turned me to the second host. "This is Matty. I'm sure you know him." I shook Matty's hand. He had on a leather jacket, a standard bad boy look. Matty pointed me to the break room. "There's snacks in there. Make yourself at home." I walked into the break room and looked around. It had vintage decor and furniture. I looked in the freezer and found ice cream sandwiches. They were the Oreo ones. I took one and started eating. Soon I looked over to see Mike walk in. I should tell you about the haunting we'll be dealing with next week. They say that the house haunts itself. I paused and tilted my head. So it doesn't have ghosts or demons? Mike shook his head. Not one. Sounds like it's not haunted at all, I said before taking a bite of my ice cream. Mike would respond. The landowner said it was cursed by a witch back when there were trials for it. I sat down and crossed my legs. Really? Mike would then sit down too and say, "That's not the only origin. Some say it's because the plot of land itself is cursed. No way to know unless we go there. We want to set off tomorrow, so you want to pack your things tonight. Aside from a camera, what else should I bring? Maybe an extra first aid kit. I'm not sure if we'll need it, but it does get dangerous sometimes. I would nod and check the time. It was getting late, so I had to get home. When I left the building, I would look around. The sky was pitch black. The ever-buzzing lampposts lit the street, exposed the sides of the buildings in the city. There weren't any people out. Only me and a few bugs with a cat or fox rustling in the bushes. Whatever it is, it had pointy ears. It didn't matter. I would start walking, the heels of my boots clicking on the sidewalk. I would stop after a while and look around. The silence was oppressive in the clear air and black sky. It didn't feel like I was being watched. Felt like complete isolation. I didn't see any animals, which was unusual. I would start walking again. I finally reached my apartment. I stepped inside the complex and took the elevator upstairs. I walked inside and kicked off my boots. I walked over to the air fryer and popped in some pizza to reheat it. The microwave is terrible for reheating, in my opinion. I would go pack some things for the trip. The next day, I would arrive at work with a duffel bag of clothes and essentials. I was met with Maddie in the lounge room. He was sat on a green vintage chair. He was combing his hair back and would look over. "You're here early. Head to the set, will you?" I would leave the break room and hop over to the classic set, propping up the camera and standing by, waiting for the hosts to step out. Mike would begin to speak. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Haunted with Mike Marley. This is my co-host, Maddie Giovanni, and this week we are going to investigate the house that apparently haunts itself. Maddie would start speaking. But you know how we are. We don't believe it until we see it. So buckle up, 'cause we're hitting the road to Salem. I would film the journey to Salem. It was dark when we arrived, so we recorded the rundown of the history and stories behind the house. Soon, we entered the home. I held the camera steady as I opened the door, the handle clicking gently, and I pushed the door open. I walked in and looked around while filming the house interior. The house felt weirdly sterilized, like it was designed by an alien, taking inspiration from earthly homes. Mike would step in front of the camera and track forward, being careful not to obscure its view. Maddie would point the flashlight around. They said the house is alive, but it looks pretty dead to me. The owner said they're too scared to step foot inside. Mike would adjust the mini-mic on his coat before saying, "Let's check out the other rooms." I would go into the living room with the mic, following and panning the camera around to take in the details. I pointed the camera at a decorative doll. Maddie would walk in and poke it with a stick he found outside. The doll didn't do anything. The usual suspect illuminated. "Got nothing," Maddie said. The doll just falls to its side. It was as limp as a biscuit. Maddie would say, Creepy little thing, huh? Mike would take a camcorder out of his bag and hand it to Maddie. Standard procedure. Maddie left the room with a few things to capture the haunting, so Mike and I were alone now. Come on, let's head to the West Hall. They say it has the most activity. We walk out into the hall on our left. We shine a light down it. It was normal aside from the out-of-place wallpaper on only one side. So we slowly walked through and sat in the middle of it. The owner says we have to wait here in the hall and wait for the house to start acting up, Mike said to both me and the camera. I lean on the wall and set the camera down, occasionally turning the camera when hearing the natural sounds of the house. We sit there for about 40 minutes. Nothing. So I stand up and grab the camera. I should check on Maddie since he isn't back yet, I said. Mike would take the camera and give me the flashlight. I'll stay here for now, then. He sat back down while I left to find Maddie. I started calling out when I reached the east side. Maddie? Hey, Maddie, where are you? I call out to him. I hear him say, I'm okay, as he opens the door on the right side of the east hall. He was still holding the camcorder in gestures into the room he was in, so I walk in with him. The room was much warmer than the rest of the house. He points to a crack on the wall. He made me hold the camera while he put on gloves and took out a cotton swab from his aid kit. He gently draws the item over the crack. It had a dark material on it. Soon he brings it into the light. There was blood on the cotton swab. This house is alive, Maddie whispered. I felt cold. My own blood sank away from my face and straight to my heart, which pumped at light speed in this moment. What the fuck? I said. Soon Maddie grabbed a pocket knife from his jacket and cut into the wall. It flexed a little like an orange peel before the knife sliced through it. Blood flowed from the wound in the wall down to the floor, pouring. Maddie looked at me in the camera. We gotta get out of here, he said to me before he went to get out, but the door slammed shut. He put the knife away and backed up to break through the door. Open the fuck up! Maddie slammed into the door, the sound of bones cracking. It wasn't his bones, though. It was the door that was giving way. Soon it broke open. Nerves were holding on to the alleged wood pieces. The house groaned. We rushed through the door to find Mike. He was walking out of the hall to see what the racket was. What the hell was that? You can't just... He was then interrupted when Maddie pushed past him and pulled out a knife and stabbed the wall. Maddie, what the hell are you... Maddie pulled the knife out of the wall. Blood spurts from it. I held my breath. We soon heard the front door slam shut. Maddie would rip the wallpaper off of the wall to see what else was wrong. This place isn't normal, man, he said as he peeled the wallpaper back. The smell hit us all at once. I dropped the camcorder upon seeing what the wall was actually made out of. It was pulsating pink flesh with a massive white ulcer in the middle. I picked up the camera and looked into the room behind the wall. The room was normal. Then I looked back around the ulcer. It looked like it was deeper than the walls themselves. Maddie goes to find something in the kitchen to use while I pick up the main camera, shutting off the camcorder and filming the ulcer. I step away and Mike leads me to the kitchen. Maddie had found an old hatchet hung on the wall and he grabbed it.
You guys think there's hammers?
Mike would kick open a pantry door and grab an old mallet inside. We rush to the front door and I filmed as they attack. I hear the floors creak under us.
Hurry, hurry, hurry!
I shout as I point the camera at the floor. Blood seeps up, revealing pink flesh as the floor moved up and down like lungs. I could hear the houses breathing through the vents. I would grab salt from the supply bag and splash it onto the floors. Screams echo through the vents, the walls quivering from agony. I had to kill the house. I head to the kitchen and turned on the gas stove. This should poison the house. By the time I come back, Maddie and Mike were out of the door, shouting for me to get out. I jump out of the door and run to the car. We left only an hour within arriving. I film the house from. We drive off. I understand why the last guy quit. Hey guys, it's late at night and I've been procrastinating on this video for a while. But I finally got it done. This is kinda it. It's like a semi ASMR thing, particularly with the last story. I don't know what's going on with that, but yeah. Like and subscribe. This is probably the longest video I have up.